Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder for each format. This particular video is for historic best of 3. We get our data from Untapped.gg, which you see on the screen. It gives us win rates, loss rates. It's like a tool that tracks like your in-game statistics, collection, stuff like that. Free to use a bunch of the functionality. The link is in the video description below if you want to get started. Or pull deck lists, stuff like that. You can do so by signing up with Untapped.gg. I'll paste these deck lists as well in the video description. But we'll jump into it. Just kind of speeding up the intro, so trying to do so to be mindful of folks who are returning to the channel, but still giving you some information to new folks. So in any case, historic best of 3, looking June 21st to 28th. And honestly, there's not a lot of games being played in historic best of 3. Only 6,800 matches. That is basically 2 to 3 times, given that it is best of 3. For comparison purposes, if we look at standard in that same time period, we are looking at 25,000 matches, so a lot higher in terms of standard gameplay. Best of 1 generally is always more popular, but number's pretty low. And for this week, we're actually going to be pulling lists as well from MTG Arena Zone. To kind of supplement the lists here. So the top performing deck of the week, sorry, I pulled all the untapped ones, is Selesnya Humans. So this is a human tribal deck. It's mainly a base white deck that is splashing green primarily in the main board for Collected Company, as well as Katilda, Dawnhart, Prime. Some ramp for you, an Anthem effect, and then Company lets you pull together some key cards, lets you play at instant speed as well. We also have the Inquisitor Captain, which acts as a kind of version of Collected Company, pulling things from your deck. And the deck here, it's got a lot of hate bear elements, and for those of you who are unfamiliar, hate bears are kind of like taxing effects. So you have stuff like Esper Sentinel, which draws you cards if your opponent doesn't pay a tax. You have Thalia that taxes your opponent's non-creature spells, Dauntless Bodyguard's protection, Giant Killer's removal, Thraben Inspector's card draw, and you'll notice there's a number of one-ofs. That's because of Ranger-Captain of Eos that lets you tutor, as well as be a pseudo protection. So say if your opponent's basically on Wrath or dead, you can sacrifice on upkeep your Ranger-Captain, and you prevent them from playing sweepers. You also have like Adeline in here for just a good efficient beater that makes more tokens, Skyclave as removal, and then Thalia's Lieutenant makes your squad bigger, as well as gets bigger on future instances of humans entering the battlefield. Mana base, interestingly, we're seeing the Forsaken Crossroads being played in this deck, in addition to 2 Cave of the Frost Dragons. In the sideboard, we see Elspeth for the grindier matchups, control, stuff like that. More removal in the form of Brutal Cathar and Skyclave Apparition. Now notably, because this is a Collected Company deck, you want as much as your removal to be creature-based to hit off it. Unlicensed for Graveyard Hate, Outland Liberator for Artifact or Enchantment Hate. Kraul Harpooner lets you fight flyers, so against like Phoenix, DRC, anything of that nature, you have options there as removal. Portable Hole, and then Tormod's Crypt as more Graveyard Hate, and then just general catch-all, like small stuff removal. So that is the Selesnya Humans list, and then the next list is Izzet Phoenix at 59%. So notably with Phoenix, they've moved a little bit away from being all in on Graveyard. Yes, they still have the Arclight Phoenix. Yes, they still have Ox of Agonis that plays out of the Graveyard, but they're not as reliant on the Graveyard. They've also lowered their curve quite a bit with the addition of Ledger Shredder. Ledger Shredder does pretty much everything you want in this deck. It lets you loot through your deck to find your Phoenixes. It's an evasive creature that keeps getting larger. You're naturally going to want to play more than 1 spell per turn, so it kind of plays into that. I've also seen the list move to buffed Symmetry Sage. Sage lets you buff up your other smaller creatures, so no matter how big Ledger Shredder is, it will always get +2 because it'll increase its base power from 1 to 3, so all the counters add on to the 3. Same with DRC. It gets +2 and then +2 because of the Symmetry Sage kind of buff. Lots of just kind of card draw, looting effects, Unholy Heat's like just a busted removal spell, and then one of Den of the Bugbear, one of Hall, and then some channel lands as well in the mana base. Sideboard, we have like, if your opponent's bringing Rest in Peace, stuff like that, you can move off kind of the graveyard package. Crackling Drake also gets around like Devout Decree, stuff like that. You have just like bounce effects, some counters, some grindier elements, counter spells, removal, and then like Graveyard Hate for the mirrors and stuff like that. So kind of a smattering of options contained within there. So I went through MTG Arena Zone and kind of pulled up some lists of folks that did pretty well. So we have Historic Esper Greasefang by Alterax, number 2 Mythic. So it's kind of a combo. So it's got elements of the Greasefang deck. Obviously, you're trying to mill Parhelion with Greasefang, but it's not all in on the combo. So you have a number of ways to put cards into your graveyard. You have Season Hallowblade to pitch stuff, Ledger Shredder, very similar to Phoenix, and then you have kind of the Connive package with Diviner of Fates, as well as Rafine playing into it as well. And then Inquisitor Captain lets you help find you pieces, taxing elements of Esper Sentinel as well. And then a pretty clean mana base with the dual lands. Your sideboard, Alterix, he plays a lot, he's usually pretty high on the ladder. Likes his sideboards very lean. So Remorseful Cleric for Graveyard Hate. You can just exile all cards, another creature that can be found from Inquisitor Captain. Skyclave is removal, Fragment Reality is just catch-all. It gets rid of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments, so it gets rid of Graveyard Hate, and then Heartless Act as the removal choice. So a very clean sideboard option there. We have Ash Lizzle at 656 with Rakdos Vampires. Ash is another streamer. Loves herself some vampires, so this is a Rakdos version of the deck. You have access to Bloodtithe Harvester, you have access to Immerstorm Predator as a good card against control, which is quite representative. We don't see it really here, but there's lots of blue-white going around. Florian, Voldaren Scion for card advantage, Kiki to copy stuff in the deck. You've got some like Bloodcasters for blood tokens, Cordial Vampire buffs your squad, Sorin's really impressive. Evelyn gets you some more card advantage. So the deck's looking for a lot more card advantage venues through stuff like Champion, Evelyn, Florian, Fable, and then you got like the Blood Artist effects mixed in there as well. Mana base wise, I know she always likes to play low line counts. How many lines here? 23. Castles for value, Hives in there as well, 1 Den. And then you have access to stuff like Grafdigger's Cage for graveyard shenanigans, Go Blank for discard, some sweepers available that protect your creatures. Legion then is really good against the Aura's deck, more Thoughtseize for discard, and then just like a catch-all selection of removal spells. Then we have Historic Neoform Ignis combo in number 87. So basically with this deck here, Racketeer Boss, basically if you lets you perpetually give your creature, when this creature enters the battlefield, create a treasure. If you put it on Grinning Ingus, it lets you have infinite enter the battlefield triggers. It enters the battlefield, and then it creates a treasure, you return it to your hand, you make the mana, so in and out, in and out, in and out. And then there's a number of ways to kind of win with that. You can either Grape Shot your opponent to death, you can Reckless Fireweaver with the treasures that come into play. Cabaret Revels also lets you, if you have a Cabaret Revels out and you cast this, it lets you get all these cards into play for free. And then you just kind of combo kill your opponent that way. You also can go infinite with Grinning Ingus and Burgi as another way to kind of gain infinite enter the battlefield effects. Sideboard wise, just another Burgi, kind of mixed in there as well. Pact of Negation for protection, some removal options, Leyline to protect against Graveyard Hate as well, kind of mixed into there. So kind of a cool combo. Neoform lets you basically find any of your pieces that you need to kind of combo out as well. Lastly, we have Dimir Control by Missman, number 12 Mythic. Missman is a savant at the control archetypes, fancies himself Dimir generally the most, but does play like Jeskai, Blue-White, Grixis. Kind of a signature style of Missman is the one of Wolfstrider, early blocker, win condition that could keep coming back from the graveyard. Seeing Ashiok as a win condition. Generally, Missman's lists are quite refined, but lots of one-ofs for situational stuff. Likes Exclude as a counter spell, Bind to Secrecy is a new one, Negate with upside that you can kind of conjure creatures, Drown in the Locks, kind of Painful Bond as draw spells, just kind of a smattering of stuff. Also like Tome of the Infinite as a way to kind of get free value. And then just selection of utility lands, castles, blast zones, Hall of the Storm Giants, the channel lands mixed into there as well. Sideboard, just more options. So like against aggressive decks, artifact or enchantment decks, Phoenix or Weenie style decks, Aether Gust red-green decks, Noxious Grasp when you need green or white hate. Against control, you got like a bunch of counters and discard, another copy of Shark Typhoon, and Languish as a sweeper. So that's pretty much it for the week. Like I said, there's not a lot on Untapped this week for Historic Best of 3, but we've pulled it in. If you are playing Historic Best of 3, let me know what the meta's like. Haven't been playing too much. I've been playing Best of 1 when I have. Still on my mono red nonsense. In any case, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.